I ever asked you something and you respond with, well, obviously, or are you serious, or what you really think? Did you know that these things can actually be creating shame for your employee? We are going to discuss this coming right up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Sreshtha Tewari. I am an emotional intelligence coach, which means I help women in leadership and business. Sure, Mama. I help women in leadership and business build a bridge to create more wealth, more abundance, and harmonize relationships in their life. Today, we are talking about how we can unconsciously be creating shame without knowing it, especially in this month of mental health awareness. Now, before I start, I just want to explain that our emotions, because shame is an emotion, is always linked to what we are thinking. Most likely is linked to what we are thinking. Sometimes we think the thought first and that leads to a negative emotion, or we feel something first and that leads to a thought. So how do we create shame? So we live in a society where most of us grew up with shame being the norm. When you did something wrong or you did something badly, chances are you were shamed for it. You don't know better than that. It's good for you because I told you not to do that. When you grow up with things like this, it almost becomes automatic in your adult life to think it is okay to progress along that same line. But the thing is, when we make statements like that, which has the propensity to erode someone's worth, you are actually shaming the person. Shame is actually any negative self evaluation on yourself. It renders you to feel worthless, powerless, for you to have low self-esteem, and for you to basically think that something is wrong with you or you should have known better in a way that erodes your self-esteem. So, in our adult lives, and when we move into leadership positions, remember moving into leadership positions, unfortunately, does not have to do with your skills or your emotional intelligence. Most times, it has to do with tactical skills with respect to a job, maybe some certification that you got, your wealth of experience, and things that are definitely needed for leadership positions. But the intrinsic skills, the emotional skills, the mental assessment skills are not there. So, what happens is we end up treating our employees the same way we think is right for an authority figure to treat someone who looks up to them. And where would we have learned this? Of course, in our childhood, when our brain is absorbing everything. So we would pattern how we deal with employees based on childhood experiences, experiences with parents, experiences with persons in authority like teachers, and then in your own experience based on what you accept. A more mature leader, meaning mature in age, would have had more experience in respect of interaction with authority figures and would, a saying would, but we can't really know for sure. But because of your experience, you may have a little more compassion and empathy in respect of what creates shame because you would have gone through situations where you realized maybe you did something wrong. And being able to assess and accept that you did something wrong or made a mistake is very important for a leader. So, one of the first ways we unconsciously shame, and I'm going to talk about three, is in the way we talk or respond to people. So, when someone asks you a question and you respond with something like, well, obviously, or do you really think like that? Or How you could ask that question? Anything like that, anything seemingly rhetorical, seemingly to render the person powerless, so much so the person may not ask about something anymore. Anything which can affect a person's evaluation of themselves in a negative way means you are creating shame for that person. And it is important to be aware of this because once you are creating shame for that person, it is going to affect them mentally. So, to create shame for someone, even if you don't know it, is to affect their mental state and the environment which they work in. The second way we create shame is by facial expression. So things like rolling your eyes, screwing up your face when someone asks you something, all of these things can lead to a person questioning if what they said to you was worthy, if it had value, and even if they should have even spoken up in the first place. And again, we live in societies and companies that, on the one hand, want to encourage you to speak up, but on the other hand, there isn't that understanding of what really keeps employees from not speaking up. Because if you are in a meeting, a face to face meeting, and you're reading employees' body language and facial expressions, and you invite persons to ask you questions, and then when a question is asked, you furrow your eyebrow, your forehead, your eyes roll, you your face twists, you are giving the employee signals that what you are asking, you really should not be asking. And that leads to an employee maybe not wanting to speak up and also maybe have a negative self evaluation on their self because they feel that they should not have asked that. The third way we can create shame is through our bodily gestures, hand gestures, walking out on someone. So, when I was early in my managerial experience, the first job where I had a more senior role, I had to have a conversation with an employee, and we had the whole conversation. I explained everything, my tone and everything was good. But when I was walking out of the room, in that day we had offices with 3 or 4 employees working in like a room, I had flung my hand, right? I'd done something like this. I didn't really know I did that. And luckily for me, the next day, someone came and said to me, you know, Shri, yesterday when you were talking to X, you demotivated her. And I was like, well, how did I demotivate her? Now, I didn't get offended. I didn't think, well, she had to be crazy because I'm the manager, so I could say whatever I want. I didn't feel that she was wrong in feeling demotivated because she should know better. I took the feedback and I tried to understand what I did. So the person who came to me, she told me, I'm not really sure, but this morning she is demotivated. So I am grateful that I had that person in order for me to be aware of what I was doing that may be hurting other people because I really did not know. And then, so I went to the person and I was asking her, well, I heard you were demotivated. I mean, I can't remember what I said. This is more than 10 years ago. And at first she was like, well, you should know. And this is the thing we don't understand as leaders. When an employee is upset, remember, an employee looks at you as an authoritative figure, as someone who knows better or who knows more than them, who has the ability and skills to lead and to lead effectively without that shame, blame, make wrong. So she honestly thought I knew and that it was intentional, and I had no idea what I did. So when I was asking her, I thought it was something I said because it was a system I was explaining to her. It was nothing I said. She said, Shri, when you walked out of the room, you flung your hand. And that made me feel, I can't remember the word she used, but maybe it's powerless or worthless. I can't remember the word she used. And I really had to sit with that. So, of course, I had to apologize to her and let her know that that was not my intention. And thank you for telling me. So, I will be more mindful of my bodily gestures. But I really had to sit with that and make sure that I did not repeat something like that in the future. And that helped me to understand that one, when you're in a managerial or leadership position, people look up to you and they expect you to know. It's almost as though your human form is stripped and you are supposed to be all knowing, all encompassing. And we know for leaders, it is not like that because we are human. We make mistakes. We have a wealth of experience, but we don't know everything. And there are times when we make mistakes and we have to be sure enough in ourselves to admit and to ask for what would you have liked me to do differently. And it really took me a while to get that out of her. I really did not know, but once I did, I was really happy. So, those are the three things as leaders we need to be aware of: how we speak, the words we use, the tone we use, what our facial expressions look like, and what we are saying with our body. Whether we are seated or we are walking, we are using our hands, and these things. Most times it is unconscious. Most times you don't understand the impact of what is going on. You can't really hold yourself responsible for every single thing somebody else feels, but you can take responsibility for how you project yourself and how you carry yourself so that the other person, to the best of your ability, receives all of your good intentions. So at this point, I will go over to the chat to see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to let me know. Just a reminder, if you put something in the chat, I may not see your name. So I'll just wait for that. And while I'm waiting for any questions, I want to let you guys know in November, I'm going to have an I Am Love challenge. The purpose of this challenge is to raise your vibration. So I know automatically when we think things are not going well for us, especially in leadership and business roles, we think we need to probably do more courses and things like that. But a lot of why things don't go well for us has to do with our vibration and what we are attracting into our lives. And the way to attract more things into your lives is by raising your vibration. So in November, I'm going to have a 30-day I Am Love challenge where every single day we're going to just eat something healthy, anything you want. We are going to do some form of activity, any activity you want. It could be running, yoga, walking. We are going to emotionalize something for it starts at a minute and it goes up. And this is really where the gem is because the more you're able to emotionalize happiness or excitement, those things create attraction to you. And we are going to say some affirmations in order to help with releasing of any negative energy and to help you really move past the make shame, blame, make wrong into basking in your high frequency love energy. So I invite you to join my Facebook group. I have it on the ticker for that if you would like to join us. And I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So at this point in time, I'm just going to thank you for watching. I appreciate you. If you watch on the replay, let me know. If you have any questions watching on the replay, let me know. And I will see you all again next week. Bye.